I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time on Times Television. This is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines. And coming up in the program today, we look at performance of the Malawi Stock Exchange in 2018. And commentators remain pessimistic over 2019 outlook. We have these and other stories, so stay tuned if you can.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
Hello and welcome. 2018 is fast approaching the end, with economic commentators rating it as a mixed bag. For instance, 2018 is a year when some key macroeconomic fundamentals like inflation remained volatile. But the money and capital markets seem to have generally registered positive performance in the year under review compared to the corresponding period. For an insight into business trends on the Malawi Stock Exchange, Business Time caught up with MSE Operations Manager Esnat Suleiman.
2018 has been yet another successful year for the stock exchange and for investors. Looking at the returns from the beginning of the year all the way to the 24th of December, the market has recorded a return of about 34%, which compares very well compared to returns that are available on, say, the money market, but also from a real return perspective, looking at inflation, which has for the 11 months averaged around 9.15%. So which means that investors are able to get a positive return from their investments on the stock market. Looking at the individual counters, what we've seen is that 10 out of the 13 companies that have listed have actually recorded positive returns. So they've recorded an increase in share price, with the highest being Press Corporation, which recorded about 90% increase in share price. We've seen only 2 companies record a drop in price, and one of the companies has remained flat in terms of its price in the year. Looking as well in terms of the volume of trades on the market, as well as the number of shares that are being traded, we've seen an increase compared to last year of about 59%, which shows that there's a lot of trading activity happening on the market, and all of that is an indication of the good results and performance of the stock market in the year 2018. Well, in terms of the performance of the stock market itself on a quarter-on-quarter basis, I would say that during the maybe the initial part of the year, that's when most of the counters recorded positive return. But within perhaps towards the end of the year, we saw a few counters actually record a drop in price. However, if you look at the drop in price that was recorded, it was not associated with any negative news on the company. So there was no news on that the companies would perform any less than they had in the previous year.
Now, for an insight into how the private sector performed in the year, here is Chimwemwe Mangazi.
Malawi's headline inflation crawled back to the double-digit lane in November, inching up by 0.4 percentage points to 10.1%. The exchange rate, on the other side, remained stable at 733 kwacha against the dollar for a greater part of the year before depreciating slightly to 760 kwacha to a dollar. Interest rates were also stable between 22% and 25%. Amid this stability, power outages continued crippling most businesses in the country. This was coupled with rising fuel prices in the second half of the year. These factors considered, Malawi's scoring on the Ease of Doing Business Index remained poor at 111 out of 190 global economies. The index ranks countries against each other based on how the regulatory environment is conducive to business operations and protection of property rights. Economies with a high rank have simpler and friendlier regulations for business. According to the latest World Bank annual ratings, the rank of Malawi deteriorated to 111 in 2018 from 110 in 2017. The ease of doing business in Malawi averaged 138.18 from 2008 until 2018, reaching an all-time high of 171 in 2013 and a record low of 110 in 2017. If the current rankings and future projections are anything to go by, then there is a lot that needs to be done to improve the situation and create a conducive environment. National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises National Coordinator Marian Chao said the year was conducive on paper.
I shouldn't lie to say it has been good. I don't even have stories or any good news from anyone who says he's benefited or she has benefited from, let's say, pigeon peas, and let alone maize, soya, and so forth. But there's been some development with the means of trade, even though there hasn't been any benefits, like maybe we can say cash. But we have had some networks developed and some knowledge shared. And also on mushroom and honey, we are trying to develop some good networks and some good markets. But mushroom within Malawi, it's been good. It's just honey, because we were looking at export, there hasn't been really good, but we are working on it. I mean, it has been some good development, I can say. And also on dairy farming, no, livestock hasn't been good at all. Livestock hasn't been good at all.
Simon Itai, an entrepreneur and a seasoned corporate executive, said 2018 has been a mixed bag.
When we look at the business environment, probably one has to look from a point of view of the different factors that have affected business in the year, both from a small and medium perspective, even to the larger companies. I think the major issue has been electricity, and I think that's a very huge cost that a lot of businesses are now having to face and deal with, because availability of electricity hasn't been as good as one would have expected. I think there was, when we move away from the electricity, what it means is that the cost is now going up for most of the businesses, regardless of what sort of business one is involved in. When we move away from there, obviously, what we saw was inflation was going down, but of late we've seen that inflation has now started picking up, which is not really a good sign, but certainly it's still better than what it was the past 2 years. So one can always say that there have been some improvements on that side. If we also look at the budget itself, it's been stable for some time. In terms of the stock market, I think the stock market has bounced. Been a lot of gains on the stock market, I think, coming from the reports that we've seen. So generally, when you look at the business environment, so it's a mixture of some good issues and others which haven't been as good as one would have expected.
While the registered economic stability helped some businesses to gain momentum, overall the industry could not make most of it. The least expectation is to end the persisting power wars. From Lilongwe, I am Chimwemwe Mangazi.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
In other news, the government has been urged to consider reducing taxes on imported construction material to help towards infrastructure development. The call came out during a dinner one of the players in the sector, Difference Construction Company, organized recently for its clients in Lilongwe. Difference Construction Chief Innovation Officer Pascal Mkanda said the sector's performance was affected by fluctuations in prices of materials on the international market. He explains.
Difference Construction is a company which is producing environmental friendly building materials, blocks, these hollow blocks, bricks, also some decorative issues like interlocks, pavers. But the main aim is to ensure that we use these concrete-based materials so that we can really conserve Mother Nature, so that we do not destroy what we require for all of us to live a good and healthy life once we have a very good environment. So these operations, research operations in 2010, really trying to make these products available. We noticed little by little that there was improvement in many people being very aware of these products. What also people realize that when you use these products, you try to construct very, very faster than if you're using the smaller bent bricks. The structures are very, very strong. This is cement all through, mixed with some quarry and other stone pebbles in it. The other advantages people have realized is how well or how beautiful the buildings look. I mean, when building with these blocks, it's very easy to have really well demarcated, very well straight lines of really a building. So they also add the beauty to this. So although starting at a smaller scale, we have seen that indeed there's been more and more customers, more and more patronage with Difference Construction as years have gone by. The other issue I'd like to mention that indeed some of these products would have been used to a wider range, but you know they come as well with a cost because that has to be really taken into account. So we see that the bigger companies or people who have got money who can afford, these are the ones which are really trying to come and visit Difference Construction and get the products. But our real wish is that we will have this affordable to more people, so that we will really be, when we talk about conserving nature, it's not just a few people conserving nature. It should be all of us trying to see how best we can work together to preserve our Mother Earth. Some of the challenges are really trying to source some of these raw materials for us to construct this. As we know, there's certain times when cement prices have fluctuated, and that has made some of the prices sometimes vary based on at what cost we're getting some of these cement products. Some of the challenges we have had was irregular power supply, which meant that we have to buy diesel to run generators to really continue manufacturing, because as more people demand these products, we're supposed to supply on time. So we're going into using buying diesel, buying generators to ensure that we're still able to produce it when we have issues of power. Certain times when we had issues as well of water supply, so we had to dig in some boreholes to do really supplying water for us to make these products. So those are some of the challenges which have been experiencing since we started. I would say that indeed there has been some improvement in trying to get that, but it's not all the time that we have the electricity. I know maybe it's difficult to have that in the country everywhere, but still we're having some challenges not having it all the time when we want to do that. But of course, as I said, there have been some improvements in the availability of electricity. The one thing which I would like also to mention was that for a company like Difference Construction, it's more like a manufacturing company. So it's not just like we're buying goods from somewhere and then selling those goods to other people like middlemen. We're the ones really doing the whole manufacturing from the raw materials. So I've heard the government is looking at some of the issues of taxation, some of these issues on people who are manufacturing, so that there can be more people manufacturing, or they can be more interested in manufacturing than trying to use as consumers or trying to be middlemen just selling products. So I think these issues of also taxation could be looked for the companies which are manufacturing products in Malawi. I think encourage more people to come on the scene. So I think this issue as well of taxation could be looked at by the government. I think it will come a time, I think, going to be very difficult. First of all, to find the trees to continue burning the bricks. I think the issues of erosion will become very, very difficult for people to really find the proper soil for them to be making those bricks. There will also be an issue of when people, I think, will become more aware of the environment, and therefore there'll be more people trying to choose to go into these concrete-based products.
And Deputy Director responsible for Environment Affairs in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining, Michael Mkorombera, said the sector's players are playing a pivotal role towards national development.
Hearing about the name Difference Construction Company, one would think they do the construction, but what we have seen here is quite different. And the company is actually manufacturing the environmentally friendly products for construction. Examples of bricks, examples of interlocking bricks, examples of the pillars, etc., etc. And in fact, what I've seen here is quite enormous, because the products which this company is producing, so many, unlike other companies. Anyway, the contribution to that to our ministry is that the company is really supporting the ministry or the government of Malawi in the implementation of the policies, government policies on the management of environment, natural resources and climate change. Apparently, the country, we are using bricks made of clay, water and burnt using the firewood. And this is bringing a lot of devastating impacts on the environment, because once you take the clay, you take the water, you take the trees for curing those bricks, then the end result is land degradation, the end result is water degradation or pollution, the end result is deforestation. And these impacts, they are bringing a lot of effects on our lives. You know, these are the natural resources where our lives are, we are living for them, okay? We depend on them. So if I said here, I gave the statistics to say requirement of the firewood for just curing those bricks, we need about 850,000 metric tons a year. And we, in the ministry, we projected to say if we go at that pace, 850,000 metric tons every year for the next 25 to 30 years, then we will not see any tree in the country. Okay, already in the country we are seeing a lot of effects originating from the practice. Like these days, the flooding is almost everywhere. The places where it was not used to flood, but now there are some floods. Just to mention a few, okay? The water has degraded. If you go to the rivers, most of them, I think they're no longer rivers, okay? They are completely covered, silted. Even this is also happening in the lakes. Even the lakes are silted. And no wonder today we are experiencing frequent blackouts of electricity, because ESCOM or Ejenco, they use water from the rivers in Malawi, and these rivers have been affected by the environmental degradation. So indeed, this company is complementing or implementing the government policies for conservation and management of environment and natural resources. We are already doing, of course we're not yet there. The government is trying to put enabling policies for this kind of industries to grow. A very good case example is apparently we are reviewing the legislation in mining and also in energy, okay, to see how best can we make the products which these companies are using to their prices to go lower. So we believe that once the review process is complete, then indeed we are going to kind of enforce the policies, and in a way we will see the cement, which is the main input for these industries, the price going lower. And we believe at that stage the products which they also produce, the prices also go lower, and they're going to be affordable by almost every Malawian, and therefore it's not going to be a very big problem for one to stop using the bed bricks, the traditional one, using these which our friends are producing.
Remember, this is Business Time right here on Times Television. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines. We'll be right back.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
And as we proceed with the program, let us now have a look at how the Malawi kwacha is faring against major trading currencies on the foreign exchange market. Welcome back. Commentators say Malawi's economic outlook remains mixed and murky, with some prevailing macroeconomic challenges likely to persist. The view comes as the World Bank predicted that the local economy would swell by 4.1% in 2019, an improvement from an estimated 3.5% growth in 2018. However, the growth is dependent on weather patterns that affect agricultural output, which accounts for more than 25% of the gross domestic product. We have the detail in this report read in our studios by Sharon Chirwa.
Currently, Malawi is facing some inflationary pressures from rising electricity and water tariffs and increases in fuel prices. Malawi's headline inflation crawled back to the double-digit lane in November, inching up by 0.4 percentage points to 10.1%. The development means Malawi only managed to sustain single-digit inflation for 15 months after falling to 9.3% in August 2017. Food inflation went up to 10.8% from 10.4%, while non-food inflation stood at 9.5% from 9.2% in October. In the past 2 months, fuel prices went up by an average of 10%, and this forced service providers, including transporters, to reciprocate by pushing up their prices. In October, the Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi effected a 20% power tariff increase as part of a 31.8% four-year tariff hike approval by the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority. Prices of maize, Malawi's staple grain that traditionally impacts the country's economy given its skewed influence in determining inflation rates, as it makes up more than 45.2% in the Consumer Price Index, have also remained elevated in the recent months. In its November 2018 monthly economic report, investment management and advisory firm Nico Asset Managers outlined key risks facing the economy in December 2018 and beyond. The firm reiterated that the threats, which include high debt levels, insufficient power supply, banking sector risks, adverse weather, and persistent weak export, would distrust development endeavors in the year. In an interview yesterday, economic commentator and Dean of Social Sciences at the Catholic University, Gilbert Kachamba, however, said not all is lost for the future. Malawi's weak and volatile economic growth performance has persisted in the recent years amid optimism from authorities. The government projected a 6% economic growth in 2019, but trends in the past years have shown that governments normally revise downward its growth projections in the course of the year. Largely, the revisions are mainly based on agricultural output, mostly due to the effects of climate change. The country's economy is agro-based, highly dependent on rain-fed agriculture, and the sector is not resilient to climatic shocks such as drought and dry spells.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time right here on Times Television. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.